Arslan Selçuk. Our paper subject is generating mass housing plans through GAMS, a case on Toki houses in Turkey. And the methodology of our study is, as seen here in the left side, as a result of our literature background, plan layout generation methods and algorithms were investigated at the intersection of the machine learning and architecture. So we examined these plan layout generation methods by gathering them in two groups, as a plan layouts generation and by processing raster images and the graph layout generation of plans. Later in our study, we realized the plan layout generation methods with these two ways. As we can see in here, plan layouts generation by processing raster images, latest study, Liu et al. In 2017 first created the junctions from the intersections. So the intersection of the walls and the location of all these elements were determined. The important part of this process is the processing of the data from raster image to a vector format. So it was the same idea, but the different working process for Zheng et al. Zheng et al. Tried to compare the segmentation methodology by changing the algorithms, also the defining or detecting the missing points. So after that, they compared all this segmentation methodology according to their gathering the realistic values. So another important study, which belongs to the 2019 Chelo and 2020, and he provided segmentation of plan layouts over raster images by using the Pix algorithm. In this work, and it was provided for the generation of plan layouts and also for the with parcelizations on the urban scale. So another important thing was in here, the user interface, because while the user is drawing, the plans also were generated. So it was an important idea for the starting point with the GANs, this process. And according to the explanation of the graph theory, we can start with the Harari in 1969, and he used and created a matrix system and was connected with the graph layout systems. But he first provided some significant benefits for the detecting and the determining the states of the points. And after that, he tried to understand the connecting the edges with these points. But if these points were related, the connection, the edges happened, but the points were not connected. It means that there is no relation with those 2 points. So another process of the study we can mention about the Grayson. And Grayson in 1971 developed a graphical expression methodology. So the program infrastructure of spatial planning in architectural design. This expression methodology places spatial layout paradigms in the north, south, east, and the west plane. And another study, March in 1971, analyzed the transfer of transitions and neighborhood relations between spaces. He discussed these transitions and the relations, and together with also the matrix systems. But another important point was the distance between the rooms, because according to the distance of the rooms, the edges ways could be defined. So another study also belongs to the March in 2002. He also tried to use graph layout generations by using the 3D generations methodology. But for us, we examined another study which was bar study, and he developed also inner courtyard. It was important because by dividing the with circulation parts to the special graphic layout systems, they trying to use with the dash points, because with the dash points it means that they are not directly related, but they could relate it with other ways by using circulations. So those studies in here, the final that we found those studies were Nawata. One of them was belongs to the Nawata in Hausgal algorithm, and in here we can see that in the Hausgal algorithm they are trying to understand and how they could generated the Hausgal plans. And at first they used the GNN algorithm and also CNN algorithm together, and after that they generated the Hausgal according to the realistic values. So it has been determined that representation of layout generation provide benefits both the networks and the realistic plan generation systems. So as we can see in here, Hu et al. Also used RPlan GNN algorithm, which is graph neural networks, and also convolutional neural networks. They used those algorithms together. So RPlan datasets was useful because that's why they could generate a vectorized floor plan thanks to this. So they also tried to create user interface by using user constraints. And for the explanation of the methodology, after we pass through the literature review background, we tried to prepare our data sets by defining the rooms and the room colorizations with segmentation methodology. But after that, we could just only few data sets. That's why we tried to use the augmentation the data methodology. And after that, we used and implemented our DC GAN, which is basic GAN algorithms. And we tried to train our data sets by increasing each epoch level. And after that, we tried to use and understand how the difference, the graph layout generations and the raster mate generations, difference from each other. So the Hausgal methodology was useful to see this. And after that, we can explain this here, DC GAN working process and working principles. So process of this calculating layers was important because the weights of all these layers and weights of all these inputs are important because the predictions and also discrimination and generations loss functions was happening like this. And according to the loss score, I mean, if the differences between the discrimination loss and generation loss was high, the optimizer is working again and again, so taking this process from the beginning part. So another part is also important things, random noise vector. And according to this happening, the realizations outputs could be changed according to this way. So, and also the formulation of the Goodfellow was important to understand if the discrimination loss function is high and if the generation loss function is low, and the peak point, when we catch the peak point, it means that we could get much more realistic values. So after explanation this, we tried to understand how it could change according to the epoch level, but it was not exactly give the realistic values. So after that, we tried to understand how this Hausgal algorithms works. So they used GPN and the CNN algorithms together. So it means that they used different algorithms together, and after that, they try to fix the graph neural networks generations by using the raster image generations. So the idea of the user interface was happened with the room relations. So it was much more useful for the generation part, and also generating the realistic values. So considering all these things, and at first we created and then generated the signal algorithms by using the Toki house plans. And but the resolution quality and the numbers of data sets gain importance because it was important for the gathering and taking the training data sets to the network. So if the data sets are not qualified, so it also affects the outputs too. But it's not only the things that affects the outputs, and also the algorithms which are used for supervised or unsupervised learning. They are also important for the generating the outputs. So another part is considering all these methodologies, we can say that secondly, the Hauskan algorithm was realized and implemented with their own data sets, lifelong data sets. In addition to convolutional MPN and GCN and also CNN algorithms, which are used in addition to working process of supervised learning algorithm. So it was the affection point for the Hauskan. So after all this trying to understand how it could happen and how we could compare all this methodology, so it is concluded that the generation of plans can be used more realistically and in a way that architects can use them systematically and more functionally. In the further process of study, comparisons can be made with our own data sets according to the fit values by using the techniques and also pix-to-pix algorithms. We didn't use pix-to-pix algorithms. And in the further process, maybe we can, nowadays, actually, we are using the pix-to-pix algorithms, but in addition to this, we are trying to understand the graph-based plan layout generation algorithms can also be tested within themselves, and these values can be compared. So thanks to